Growing up as a child, about 10 years old, in the 1970s, Cleveland's East Side, I didn't know it then, but I discovered something that would ultimately shape my life and get me through some very difficult times. And that was a museum. Every day after school, me and my buddies would jump on our bikes and we would ride all over the city, especially up to the museum. We called it the Duck Pond at the time. And I was always curious as to what that building was up on the hill. And I remember it had a statue of Rodin's, the thinker out front, a rendition anyway. And I was always curious about what was going on in this building because I knew it was something important and something special. But I didn't have the courage to go in at the time. I was just a kid. But each day I was up there, I got bolder and bolder until finally I saw this group of school kids. I guess they were out on an outing going to the museum, and so I just got in behind them, and I got in. And now that I think about it, I really didn't have to sneak because it was always free. But I was a kid, and I was by myself, so that was my way of getting in. I was at that museum so much that the guards got to know me by sight. And what are you going to look at today? You spent a lot of time in the Egyptian room. That was one of my favorite exhibits. But again, the museum was so tantamount in my being here today. Art was my lifeline in prison. And again, it's a big reason and a big part of why I'm the person I am today. My friends would always ask me, where do you take off to and where do you go? And I just said around because I really didn't want them to know that I was going to the museum. To me, that was my sanctuary. That was my place of refuge. That was my temple, my mosque, my synagogue. That was my holy place. And of course, I didn't think like that then as a 10-year-old kid, but that was a place where I felt most safe, and it just fed my increasing thirst to want to know about everything in the world, the people that made these things, and how we came to be in possession of them. In prison, I read a great deal, especially about art. I would solicit anybody I thought had a book. And a lot of times I got a lot of books, especially art books. But again, this art was the catalyst to get me to other vehicles in my life. I educated myself through art. I learned about the world through art. I learned about people, places through art. And this, again, was the mainstay. When everything was falling apart in my life, I had stacks of art books in my cell. In fact, I had so many, I had to get rid of them, a lot of them. But again, art, more than anything else I can honestly think of, is what got me here on this stage today. And just believing that there was something better out there, and I wanted to be a part of it. I didn't belong here, and art always reminded me of that. Prison is about sameness, and it's intentionally that way. Same food, same routine every day. Right now, I can tell you exactly what's going on in prison, pretty much. And it's the same routine every day. When I was finally released from prison in November the 21st of last year, mind you that After 39 years of the same exact day, every day, and then all of a sudden, someone says, you can go. I stepped out into a world that was alien to me. New sounds, new smells, just the pace of life itself was so confusing. And I was just fortunate to be around some very good people who they must have saw what I was going through, and they just embraced me and took care of me that day. But it was like, honestly, having an out-of-body experience that first day. I mean, I was there's not a word that can describe how I felt that day, because it was beyond happiness. When I was exonerated, well, a lot of people still ask me about this today. How could you forgive that person for what they did to you and the stuff, there's so much that they took from you? It wasn't solely because of that person, but it was for me. Somehow, I've been rescued from the depths of hell and given a great opportunity. Since I've been out of prison, I've met so many fantastic and wonderful people, and they have helped so much in my healing process. But it was important to me to meet this young man and to let him know that after all this time, I understood that we were both victims in a game that we had no chance of winning in. He was a child, we were almost children, and they took so much from us. And I didn't feel that it was right for him to suffer needlessly through my hate or my displeasure or my anger. And so it was tantamount for me to forgive him, because I've been given such a wonderful opportunity, and I wasn't about to squander it being resentful or hateful or living in that past. I have a beautiful life now. I'm glad to be alive. And again, it was so important for me to forgive that young man. I met him at his church. And you know how people say that when you relieved of a burden, it seems like you could see the person become lighter, or the burden. I actually saw this in this young man. I embraced him and I told him that I finally understood and that I forgive you. And I hope you have a beautiful and wonderful life, because I intend to. And I actually saw the transformation immediately. It was like he just got so light in my arms, and that made me feel good, because I was released from that. I was released from that life, and again, I'm glad to be here. Everyone thinks that prison was the in-between, but this right now feels like the in-between. I got a chance to go back to the museum in Cleveland when I first got out. Apparently, the people that run it heard about my story, and so they invited me to the museum, and I was delighted. It was this figure of this cavalry horseman, this medieval cavalry horse guy, and as a little tyke, going into the entrance of the museum, that was the first thing you see. And this thing just took me. I was really enthralled with this guy. I mean, every time I went to the museum, I had to see this guy. I wouldn't go in the side door, the back door. I had to go, and we had to talk, and we had to go through our thing. He was the guardian of the museum. And so, like I said, I got a chance to go back, and over the years, they did some renovations and added on to the museum. And so the first thing that crossed my mind was that they probably got rid of all the old stuff, but everything in the museum is old. But the horse, I wanted to see the guy on the horse. And so they kind of played a little joke with me and took me around the new entrance. I didn't see the guy, so I was automatically disappointed. And as far as I'm concerned, the rest of the trip was like, whatever, you know. But they walked me around for about 15 minutes, and they took me through this this way where the guy was behind me when I came in, and so I'm looking around, not really all that interested, because they got rid of my favorite piece. And so they said, why don't you turn around? What do you think about that? And so I turned around and, wow, there he is. Never moved in 39 years, been waiting for me all this time. You know, that's a friend. But at that moment, when I finally came around and faced and looked up at him, he seemed kind of shorter now. But it was at that moment that I finally felt like I was home again. And it just felt like I was home. Thank you. Honestly, thank you so much. Thank you. Folks, this isn't my show. This is about everybody here. Honestly, this isn't my show. This is about everybody here. But thank you. They insisted I come out. So put it on them. Thank you, guys. Thank you.